And at 10, Purple Guy. William Afton is depicted as the Purple Guy in FNAF 2, a mysterious purple figure that was the figurehead of the Five Nights series. In the Take Cake minigame, he is depicted driving up outside the pizzeria and killing a kid outside the restaurant. Finally, he lured 5 kids into the back room using cake and a yellow suit, and then, as seen in the Foxy Go 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 minigame, killed them too. They go on to possess Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, and Golden Freddy respectively. The puppet, who is the first victim, would then give them life in the animatronic suits to save their souls. In the second game, he is implied to have been the night guard before Jeremy Fitzgerald, and after surviving a week on the night shift, he complained about his conditions, so then he was moved to day shift. Although that's weird because he's the owner of the company, so why would he be just a security guard if he was also the suit technician? But currently that's all we have. He also went to kill on 5 more kids at that location, as we see in the Save Them minigame. And at 9, Pink Guy. The Pink Guy is the title given to the version of Purple Guy seen in FNAF 2's Foxy Go 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 minigame, which is already a huge issue, since now a load of people think that there are 2 killers in the series, and seriously caused a whole group of people to believe that the 2 killer theory was canon, and some of them I'm sure think of it to this day, despite the Pink Guy never making an appearance after that game. He's slightly higher on the list than Purple Guy because, well, everyone knows the Purple Guy, but those coming into the series later on may not know about this whole pink and purple debacle, unless they binged all of MatPat's theories, in which case they've heard it before. Back in the day though, in 2014 when the FNAF 2 came out, did you believe that there were 2 killers? Be sure to let me know down below. There's no shame in it, unless you still believe it to this day, with the exception of Vanny, since technically now there are 2 killers, but none of them were ever the Pink Guy. And at 8, Mustard Man. Mustard Man is certainly an interesting variant of William. Appearing in the Midnight Motors minigame from FNAF 6, you can only see this character if you use the secret shortcut hidden in lap 10. Well, okay, I say shortcut, but it's really a hidden level at the bottom of the map. This takes you through a whole separate story process where you go to a place named Junior's, get turned away, and then you go home. Someone in gray tells you to not be so hard on him, he's had a rough day, and then you proceed to be hard on him, whoever he is, since he's broken a window and seemingly escaped his room. This is very clearly meant to represent William Afton before Crying Child dies at the hands of Fredbear, since Crying Child would have been the one breaking his window in order to go to that place again. The single house in a clearing also parallels itself to FNAF 4's main menu screen with a single house on a clearing on a hill, and this minigame also gives us the order of events of children's deaths, since it seems to be like Elizabeth is gone at this point, so she would already be dead, and this also happens right after William killed Charlotte, since it's called later that night in the game files. So the order of deaths would go Elizabeth, Charlotte, Crying Child, and then the missing children's incident of 1985. And at 7, William Afton. William Afton is the classic version of the psychotic killer that we all know and want permanently dead. At least I do. Being first introduced by name in the Silver Eyes novel and then in the game's in sister location, William Afton is the one behind all the killings and is the true name of the man we originally knew as the Purple Guy. He's the one who used the yellow spring Bonnie suit to lure kids into the back room in 1985 and kill them, and he's the one who opened up Circus Baby's Pizza World to find more kids after Fredbear's closed and got his daughter killed because of it. William Afton, much like every other instance of this character, has done the same things as the other versions, but at least this time we had his true name, as revealed in the sister location opening cutscene. Quote, "There's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state of the art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping you could shed some light on those. She can dance, she can sing. She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream. With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton." And at 6, Dave Miller. In the novels, Afton is described as being overweight around the time that the serial killings occurred, but he eventually lost that weight while in his Dave Miller persona, which comes from the FNAF novels, particularly the Silver Eyes. As Dave, William is slated to be tall and was described as being sallow and thin, with his skin sagging in appearance. His face was poorly shaven and his eyes looked unfocused and sunken. His security guard uniform didn't seem to fit him properly, and the uniform was grubby and torn in places, with his name tag hung askew on his chest. The scar on his neck was also ugly and curved, almost like a perfect half moon, and the same scar appeared on the other side of his neck. In the graphic novels, Dave is depicted as having messy brown hair and gray eyes. He wears a scuffy uniform, his shirt is white with a black tie and pants, and due to the spring lock failure incident, there are endoskeleton arm marks where his arms are, as well as an endoskeleton torso. He also has the 2 scars on the back of his neck, which are also from the endoskeleton. Halfway through, and at number 5, Vanny. Vanny is a follower of the digital virus Glitchtrap, a reincarnation of the serial killer William Afton, and appears as the main antagonist of FNAF Security Breach. It's revealed in the Princess Quest minigames that she was the main protagonist of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, where she was first corrupted by Glitchtrap. She also plays a role in FNAF AR Special Delivery. Vanny wears a white bunny costume that has stitching all over it, with a large pink patch on her left hip. The costume also has a bright blue bow on the chest, and its hands and feet have like the pink pads under them, like the actual animal paws. Her bunny mask is also white, has a creepy smile and small buck teeth, along with a pair of whiskers, small eyebrows, and big glowing red eyes that appear to be spaced out. Vanny is shown to be murderous and evil as she attempts to trick Gregory into falling for a trap by pretending to be a nice and well-meaning security guard. She seems to cower in fear for Master Glitchtrap, as shown in scrap dialogue, and she just won't talk about him at all when in therapy, even though she mentions it but then immediately backtracks. She also has some uncertainty in her voice when being confronted about her task where she's supposed to be killing people. However, at the time of Security Breach, which takes place after the conversation we hear in Help Wanted, she apparently has killed 9 people at this point, as we can see from the newspaper article, assuming one of them isn't Gregory. But technically, being possessed by Glitchtrap makes her a version of William Afton. And at 4, Scrap Trap. William returned once again in FNAF Pizzeria Simulator with a new design, dubbed Scrap Trap. While he does retain some key physical details from Springtrap's design, there are some major differences. Unlike his previous design where his interior was mostly machinery, it's now mostly organic and shows his human skeleton as well as his flesh, and 5 bony fingers on his hands. The reason as to why William Afton is much more detailed this time around is unknown, but it could be possibly because his full body can be seen in one of the boot screens, but there are more torn patches on his suit this time around with multiple exposed wires, and he lost his left forearm, half of his left ear, and the rest of his right ear. His feet now have fabric over them, and 3 large round toes on each foot. His eyes don't glow anymore, and he looks mostly metallic, and the mask also has some significant differences with a much larger eye socket, black nose, square muzzle, a singular pair of buck teeth in the top row, and just sharp needle teeth at the bottom, as well as just being differently proportioned, which begs the question of how did this happen if he's still supposed to be Springtrap, or the same suit as Springtrap. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Burn Trap. William appears as the optional yet canon final boss in Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, named as Burn Trap according to the game files. He only appears in the canon ending though. This form couldn't be a result of Vanny downloading William's soul from the digital realm into his own hybrid animatronic of the animatronic suit, although his corpse is still partially visible. You can see his whole jaw at this point. Burn Trap's new rotten form appears to wear his old but modified tattered greenish brown spring bodysuit, and it has become even more severely withered, having been burnt around 3 times at this point, and he's still not goddamn dead. The suit is missing fur, with the exception of the chest, hips, left foot, upper leg, and everything else was basically burnt away, and it reveals more of his charred corpse, although there is little of it left. His other endoskeleton has been replaced with the same endoskeletons that the Glamrock animatronics have, making him taller and giving him claws with sharp fingers, which I'm sure he's going to use later on. 2 of them replaced with fleshy finger bones on his right hand though. I don't know. This is the creepiest version that we've seen so far, but I like it. And ultimately in at number 2, Glitchtrap. Glitchtrap is the digital manifestation of William Afton and first appeared in FNAF Help Wanted. Glitchtrap takes on the form of a man wearing a cartoonish Spring Bonnie costume based on Spring Bonnie's appearance from a poster advertising Fredbear's Family Diner, being a really odd, grinning, bipedal, golden yellow rabbit. Basically, the cartoon version of Spring Bonnie. He's wearing a purple star-speckled vest, a purple bow tie, because of course he is, of course it's purple, and 2 black buttons near the top of his chest. He also has stitches across his hands and all of his joints because, it's a suit this time around. He initially appeared translucent, progressing into a less spectral form over time as you collect the 16 tapes, and he also possessed vivid purple eyes and small pupils, because of course he does, because purple. In blacklight mode, his eyes will turn blue with white circular pupils, but that's just because they're basically inverting him. He also has large whiskers on either side of his face, 3 eyelashes on both of his eyes, and large arching eyebrows, because you know what, he wants to take you to the back of the pizza joint, and then, Uncle Fluffy ain't gonna do nice things. And finally, in at number 1, Springtrap. Springtrap is William Afton's first physical incarnation, appearing as a weak yet still living William sealed in a heavily damaged golden Bonnie Springlock suit. This version first appeared in FNAF 3, and he has a drab olive color, which is weird considering how all of his more green and he was originally supposed to be yellow, but whatever. He has darker colors all over like the insides of his stuff. A great portion of his right ear is missing, with a single red wire sticking out of the stump. Springtrap's entire body is torn and tattered, with gaping holes bearing exposed wires and casing, and yeah, basically he looks very run down, like he's been sitting in the same room for 30 years. Oh wait, he has. His nose is like irregular and squarish, and he looks nothing like how Scraptrap looks, which still makes no sense to me. And this time, he has none of his feet. Yeah, that's right. The feet that he has attached are like the endoskeleton is intact, but the casing is stripped mid-shin down, and then you can like see all of the endoskeleton wiring, the actual endoskeleton, and the tendons that would have made up this section of actual William if he wasn't trapped in an animatronic suit. Keep in mind that this Afton is still alive at this point, since the one you should not have killed, crying child, is still keeping him alive, okay? So he could continue to suffer. So he's still alive at this point, and I'm tired of you people telling me that he's not, okay? Springtrap is not an animatronic.
Number 10, animated Scraptrap. Not even an animated or cartoon version of Scraptrap can redeem Scraptrap's overall horrific image. Even when you try to make Scraptrap cute, he remains one of the most terrifying animatronics around. This version of Scraptrap and Springtrap is sometimes made to look a little less monstrous, given a shorter stature, is made cuter, and given less malicious expressions. But then there is still a very evident dark side that shines through. I mean, just look at this grin here. Springtrap, even when animated, is still always up to something, and should basically never be trusted. Nor should Scraptrap. Number 9, electric Scraptrap. Electric Scraptrap just sounds like a horrifying idea. Any animatronic just sounds awful, to be honest, because if the animatronics were electric, they could then harm you at range, and being near them wouldn't just mean you'd get jump scared, but also mean you could get shocked to death, or possibly, I suppose, shocked to life. If you suffered a heart attack from the jump scare, actually maybe the electric shock would restart your heart. Wait, but then you'd be stuck in an endless loop of death, with the animatronics jump scaring you and then reviving you on repeat, possibly forever. So never mind, still not so great, and pretty scary overall. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more fan alternate FNAF lists, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Every time you thumbs up a video, a new fan alternate comes into being. Some fan somewhere is like, I gotta draw this idea. Number 8, fixed Springtrap / Scraptrap. Fixed Scraptrap doesn't sound scary at first, and then you see what some fans have done with this design. The eyes for many versions that I've looked at is what makes this fan-made alternate so unsettling for me. The fact that everything on this animatronic looks put together and almost brand new, save for the fact that you can still kind of tell there is someone in the suit, and someone who might not be doing well, and is likely still dead. The contrast of that clean suit with those manic eyes is pretty much what haunts me here. Something very unhinged about this version. Number 7, expectation Scraptrap. This is a design that was shared with the idea in mind of what Springtrap should or could look like once he became Scraptrap. It was shared on Reddit and shows Scraptrap reimagined as being patched up with various different parts and bits from other animatronics, fully formed as opposed to being quite so tattered and broken. Well, still tattered I suppose, but just with less pieces missing overall, just also a little more put together looking in my opinion. Expectation Scraptrap to me is a lot more colorful, which reduces some of the scare factor, but this version of Scraptrap is also more functional, which is pretty scary. And I think it makes sense that Scraptrap would patch themselves up with like actual animatronic pieces that we might recognize, considering whose corpse is also inside here, and therefore who the pilot behind that animatronic really is. You'd think you see some reflection with like, you know, maybe some other animatronic pieces that we've seen before, that this person may have also made, you know what I mean? Number 6, Peekaboo Scraptrap. I like to call this one Peekaboo Scraptrap just for the way this redesign looks. The main difference between this version of the character and the original one from the games is that we can more easily see William Afton's head here, or what's left of it at least. The new head on this version has the original animatronic head sitting more back and up, as though the top of the head was pulled up and away from the bottom half, the jaw. The top part of the animatronic head kind of rests on top of well, I guess whatever is left of William Afton's head inside the suit, kind of like when you put sunglasses on top of your head for easy access and safekeeping when you no longer want to be wearing them on your face. The result is a very eerie face that we get to see, still shrouded in darkness, peering out at us from inside the gaping hole where the animatronic's mouth is open wide. This specific fan-made redesign that I'm talking about here was shared by Atlas Zodiac on Reddit. You should check it out because it's pretty creepy and pretty great. Number 5. Springtrap After the Fire. This fan-made alternate version allows one to imagine what it would be like to gaze upon Springtrap after he's already been melted by the flames and forever altered. Mostly he looks kind of distorted and goopy here. Overall, just not pleasant to gaze upon or spy lurking in the shadows behind you. Springtrap After the Fire often has more organs exposed, or in some cases has no outer suit left at all. Some fan-made takes on this version also show that the corpse beneath has lost its eyes, with them supposedly melting away in the flames, while other versions show the eyes as somewhat malformed due to the heat, becoming somehow, I guess, partially melted. Alternatively, one fan reimagined this version of Springtrap as just a pile of ashes with eyes and an arm sticking out. Seems pretty accurate. Number 4. Burned Scrap Trap. Typically, the Burned Scrap Trap fan-made version reveals to us a version of this animatronic who has less limbs and less of a suit left. The skeleton beneath the corpses and organs is revealed in some parts, prominently the skull. One take has the entire upper head of the suit missing, with little stumps of wire where the ears would be. Imagine being burnt in a suit with metal ears on it. It would not be pleasant at all. And it would probably be very hot on your head as that metal started to heat up. I'm like imagining what it would be like and it's already like just painful to me. I'm surprised we don't see more burned versions of Scrap Trap with melted brains actually oozing out of the nose holes. Going into a fire, it seems like a goopy or boiled brain would be a very real reality. Number 3. Hellfire Scrap Trap. Possibly one of the scariest alternate versions of Scrap Trap around when it comes to fan-made versions. This version of the killer animatronic possesses an even sharper bone shank and looks like it's partially melted, with the outer part of the suit looking like it has melded or completely melted with the corpse of William Afton beneath it. Basically, this version of Scrap Trap looks like it has returned from hell after being placed into its otherworldly blazing fires, which could very well be the story of what happened in this scenario, just based on the fan-made animatronic's appearance. This version of Scrap Trap also only seems to have one eye left remaining. One eye left. The depth perception must be really not great for that version of Scrap Trap. Number 2. Ignited Springtrap. All that remains seemingly of this version of Springtrap is his skeleton. Ignited Springtrap seems almost chalky when it comes to his look, being that he is mostly just bits of burnt flesh and suit and exposed brittle bones. The one plus about this scary fan-made version, if you had to face it, is that you would probably find it pretty easy to defeat because it's just a walking skeleton, which means it probably wouldn't be that strong as it has no muscles left. At least that's how I always imagine fighting skeletons in real life, but then again, being just bones means that you're likely harder to hit with a ranged attack as you have less mass, so I guess there are pros and cons to taking on skeletal enemies like Ignited Springtrap. Number 1. Scorched Scrap Trap / Springtrap. Yeah, there are lots of different versions that like to reimagine Springtrap or Scrap Trap as being pretty heavily burnt. Scorched Scrap Trap is no exception. This fan-made fire-based version of the animatronic, however, I think is one of the scariest. Why? Because it reimagines the animatronic as something that is a little less human-like in appearance to me. One fan-made version shows the scorched version in half shadow, obstructing its facial features from clear view and making it appear more ominous. Other versions imagine scorched Scrap Trap as resembling the burned up ghost version that haunted us in FNAF 3 at the Fazbear's Fright attraction, because obviously at that time Springtrap was around and was alive, so not a ghost. Just a corpse in a suit.
And 10 Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie, while being canon in the main series, has only been showed in 8-bit cutscenes. It very well could have just been an animatronic too. But looking up Spring Bonnie on Google Images actually is pretty creepy for something that's only been in 8-bit and supposed to not be scary, since it's just an animatronic with an exoskeleton, or exosuit. For some reason, I find this more unsettling than the normal Springtrap. Maybe because I've been looking at normal Springtrap for so long that I've just gotten used to it? I don't know. The look of the completed and pristine Springtrap just puts me on edge for some reason. Maybe it's Maybelline, maybe it's because I think I'll be the next victim. Either way, Spring Bonnie is scary. I was gonna make a joke like Spring Bonnie is spring scary, but It didn't work. I don't know why I thought of it. And a 9 draw kill. This Springtrap was drawn in the style of draw kill. At least that's what the image said. I was unable to find the original author since the 3 versions of this that showed up were small and Pinterest links that didn't give any credit, so that's unfortunate. But this thing sets me on edge. And not only this, but searching draw kill Springtrap on Google will get you a load of monstrosities that will haunt your nightmares for the next few weeks. I'm not quite sure what it is about this animatronic that makes it so creepy. I just know that it's creeping the hell out of me. Why does this misfortune continue? And it ain't Toy Springtrap. Toy Springtrap is what it sounds like. Springtrap in the form of Toy Bonnie instead of Golden Bonnie. Well, actually, Golden Toy Bonnie. This is creepy as hell. Can you imagine being stuck inside a toy animatronic? Like, obviously I'd like to be stuck inside Toy Chica, but not for so long that the parts of plastic start coming apart and deteriorating and my flesh starts melting and rotting away. Yeah, I don't like the thought of that, and yet here we are with Toy Springtrap and it hurts my feelings. Like on a deep level. Like, at least they didn't do this to Chica, otherwise I think I would be crying on camera, and the editors would leave it in because they like to watch me suffer, just like the rest of you do. And it's 7 Scorched Springtrap. Scorched Springtrap is different than its canon counterpart from FNAF AR. Scorched Springtrap in essence looks like a phantom version of Springtrap, like as if it was a hallucination in FNAF 3. Basically a burnt version of Springtrap after the fire at Fazbear Frights. Speaking of which, it looks like they just showed up across the street because there's fire trucks over there. But I'm sure you're seeing it, so you know what I mean. Sure, normal Springtrap is pretty spooky, but this guy just takes it one step further and really messes with your head. It's ironic given how you can actually see Springtrap on multiple cameras in FNAF 3 as another hallucination. So Scorched Springtrap looking like a phantom makes sense. And it's 6 Nightmare Springtrap. We all love the nightmare animatronics. They're some of the scariest things in the games that we've seen. But Springtrap was missing from the bunch, obviously, since this would have been before Springtrap was a thing, at least in the timeline-wise. And William caused the hallucinations anyway. But the fan versions of Nightmare Springtrap are some horrific With the famous stomach mouth and razor-sharp munchers, this guy will eat your arm and left testicle for breakfast and then come back for seconds, and then will finish you off for lunch, then regurgitate you again come dinner. But you're also forced to deal with this cycle every day, and it's still you every day. You just somehow come back to life so he can eat you again. I don't know where this analogy came from, like, I'm not okay. FNAF has actually broken me. Halfway through into number 5, Final Nights. 2 words. Kill me. I don't want to deal with this thing, so if I'm ever in a situation where I come into contact with this thing, be it virtual or in the real world somehow, I'm going to tell it to kill me. Because no. Just no. This thing is horrifying, and there's only one real image of it. The suit over the exoskeleton is even more torn and tattered, and the glowing dots for eyes make it not any better. My pants are now the color of this animatronic because of it. How does William even have glowing dots for eyes? Like, shouldn't he just have normal eyes? Because he's still human. I'm so confused. Look, this thing could find me in broad daylight with a million people around it and be frozen still, and I still wouldn't mess with it. This thing looks crazy. Why is Final Nights so goddamn terrifying? It scares me with the Reaper puppet, and it scares me with its version of Springtrap. I don't know if it's just an Easter egg or an actual antagonist, but I don't plan on sticking around to find out. And it forced Springtrap Endo. What would Springtrap look like without an exosuit? Without the stuff that actually makes him look like Springtrap. A monster comprised of human flesh and gore and some metal thrown in. Yeah, Springtrap Endo is the endoskeleton of Springtrap with William Afton still connected. Not only does that sound painful as hell, it looks like it. But this thing is so bloody, honestly, a lot of it may be black and white, or something like that. We may not be allowed to show it on YouTube. Well, we probably could show it, but we may get in trouble for doing so. So, watch at your own risk there. YouTube, I said it. Are we okay? Are we good? Getting close to the end in number 3, Daylight Springtrap. Daylight Springtrap is a version of Springtrap fan-made as a proposition for Dead by Daylight, a popular multiplayer survival horror where you play as either one of the survivors or the killer. The killer has options between the look and class of the killer, and this creation was a proposition for the game to add a Springtrap character, which would require a load of licensing fees, but we'll pretend like it would be possible. This thing would scare the living hell out of me in either game. It's just horrific. Just the horrific nature of these creations makes me sick to my stomach. There are multiple versions of this animatronic, and they all just make me feel like I'm going to suffer. Some may say just to add the normal Springtrap animatronic, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Would you like to see a Springtrap killer in Dead by Daylight? And if you did, would you want a unique design or the original Springtrap that we all know and love? Be sure you let me know in the comments. Penultimately, in at number 2, Ignited Springtrap. Ignited Springtrap comes to us from the wonderfully horrific and terrifying world of the Joy of Creation. Ignited Springtrap is what I feel like Springtrap would have been. With no jaw and his horrifying demeanor overall, this guy will make you bricks. I'm not even sorry about the swearing because this one was necessary. Normal Springtrap is bad enough, but crank it up to an 11 and then throw it into the real world and then all of a sudden you get this thing. And if you're unaware, the premise of Joy of Creation is that you play as Scott Cawthon and the animatronics are coming after you in our world. Hence the name Joy of Creation. But we will also be getting a new and improved version of this character thanks to the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. Thanks, Scott. Just makes everything more terrifying. Hooray! Finally, in at number 1, Garvey. Garvey is the penultimate antagonist in Dormitibus. As a human, he was a man who murdered the missing children. He later went on to get trapped in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap, and then was burned to a permanent death in the Fazbear Frights fire. Garvey is a extremely grotesque version of Springtrap. The suit on his limbs and body are heavily tattered and shredded, and his organic remains are far more visible than they are for the normal Springtrap. His lower jaw is deformed and broken, which disappears on at least one occasion, showing Garvey's corpse, mouth, and jaw. Cause you know, why the hell not? And Garvey now has an unnatural animalistic stance, walking in all 4 limbs like a spider. His limbs also appear to be snapped in multiple places, alluding to the limbs being bent in unnatural ways, and the fact that his left hand serves as a foot and his left foot serves as a hand? What? He is also much bigger than Springtrap, or any other threat in the game. They were also named before the William Afton name reveal, I'm pretty sure, so this is just a random messed up dude, in at least Dormitibus lore. Yeah, no thank you, not anymore, no, go away.